Andy, yeah, vocalist, lyricist, best man alive.
Uh, uh, Excellent. Thank you. First off, thank you for taking some time to talk about what you're going on and exciting things what you have going on. Is a new album coming out on September 3rd.
And
Pretty
thank you for
exciting
you.
for you.
This is it's better, you're doing this for us, really, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. So the new album's titled "Our Kingdom Undone." Is there something specific that y'all wanted to maybe create an impact with that title?
Um, I honestly I can't remember where it came from. The title definitely predates like even writing the album. It was something that I came up with, and I was just batting it around, and the guys all just said, it it stuck with them. I think a lot of what we do, is we don't write for an audience, we write for just ourselves. So when it's something in inside the group, when someone goes, oh, I really like that, it really gets that sort of thing going. And it kind of plays into that whole decline of empire you're seeing across the world, and what I see as the squandering of human potential. I think that's a lot that record's about, really, because the United Kingdom and all that isn't particularly united these days, and most of the world seems to be trying to go at its own throat, and it really just kind of built from there. Even like it feeds into the artwork. The artwork is full of all these little archetypal images, which we kind of reclaimed and showed how they don't really match up to reality. So things are falling apart, to misquote the famous author.
Yeah, and it's actually quite fitting. I mean, unfortunately, it's quite fitting what the whole entire
Yeah.
world is going through. I mean, here we are. We think we're this advanced species, and we can't just get our shit together.
So yeah. So when we signed to Prosthetic, obviously, originally we were going to release the album, self-release it in May last year, because it was done and ready to go. And then obviously the pandemic happened, and we thought we'd delay it for a couple of months. That's what we thought. We thought this will blow over. It'll be fine. It didn't blow over. But luckily Charles, our producer, was the one who said, I really like this, actually. I'd like to pass on to Prosthetic for you. And we're like, yeah, of course, that'd be great. We've not had much luck reaching out to labels before. We've never really known how to get our foot in the door, and he offered to be that foot in the door. And they said, right, okay, it's not going to be out 2020. They've got their own release schedule. They've got to start putting RPR together. They've got to know us a bit better. They can't just take our record and just throw it out. And,
Right.
I remember saying to I think EJ, I was like, well, some of it's quite current. It's kind of universal themes, because it's quite British, but we've used like some American voiceovers, and there's references to different wars and events throughout history of different places. And honestly, and this is me being way too optimistic, I was like, what if it's not relevant anymore? and honestly, I legitimately thought, maybe we'll see the bad path we're on. It can't get that bad. And worst case scenario, we're going to put this album out and everything's going to be hunky-dory and it'll be fine, and everyone will just go like, okay, it's a historical document. And I feel really weird that, yeah, it's really relevant, and I really wish it wasn't.
Right. Yeah, it's unfortunately relevant, and I, as positive as everybody wants to be, I think unfortunately this is a somewhat new normal, and we have to adjust to that.
Yeah. I like I said, I'm not a nihilist. I hate that. So I think it's quite a childish position that a lot of metal scene has. Human potential is very impressive, not just like scientifically, but there's compassion, and we've built society out of which is meant to group together and achieve great things collectively, and we can do that. But like you said, we're gonna have to find new ways to do that. We're gonna have to acknowledge that we got a bit complacent, I think.
Yeah.
We thought, oh, we've risen to a certain higher level of consciousness. It's going to be easy going from here. We're just going to colonize Mars and create a super utopia. And actually, because we took our eye off the ball, all the sort of the regressive elements came and went, oh, this is our chance to grab a piece of the pie and drag us back into a slightly darker age. And I think we're still on that slippery slope where it's not quite 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Sometimes it feels like 1 step forward, 2 steps back at the minute.
Yeah, and it's funny that even just looking back at history, at different civilizations, they all got to a peak and then crumbled. So hopefully we can be smarter than our ancestors and learn, and like you mentioned, work together to get past this.
Yeah, I mean, so the one I said I'm not a nihilist. The one place I'm really cynical about is, and I wish I wasn't, because I want to believe that, you know, humanity is going to make it to the stars and spread out and be better. You know, I want to believe in the Star Trek, the Gene Roddenberry, the Ian M. Banks. You know, the ability to just to look forward, look out. But when it comes down to, you know, the Fermi paradox, you know, if that was actually a thing where all alien races, they're either all dead, or in my idea, this we got a topic here, but this does tie in, I promise. If you look at the cosmic timescale of how long the universe has been here, the chances of two intelligent civilizations rising and sharing the same time period is infinitesimal. The chances of them sharing the same time period and being within distance of each other it's not going to happen. I think we are very much alone. We may not be the only life to ever rise or have ever risen, but I think people will find our ruins, or we'll find other people's ruins rather than live one. And weirdly, that's kind of what the first song on the album was kind of about that originally, and then it just got more into real life politics, and then the album kind of span off into that. But yeah, it was originally a holdover from the first album, which is all kind of like, you know, big ideas and philosophies, and then I was just writing, and all these ideas started to become metaphors for real life, until Chris, our guitarist, stopped me and said, "Are you all right? Is this about? Is there anything you want to say to us?" I was like, "Oh God, no! I'm in a really bad mood, aren't I? This is coming out of me." So yeah, it ended up in it was meant to be really high and philosophical, and it ended up really personal and political. And I'm fine with that. That's just how it ended up. You know, we followed the path we were on, didn't try and force it.
Yeah. Or they could also be to where there are aliens and they look at our planet and they're like, yeah, we're not going to stop there. We're just going to keep going.
True. I mean, you've got to imagine, you know, much as I loved, I rewatched Independence Day last month because it was, you know, American Independence Day and it's a tradition. And everyone talks about how it makes no sense, the aliens, to, with that much technology, to fly that distance to try and take over or steal a planet. You know, they could do other stuff. And also, what do we really have that they need?
Right.
They would swing by and go, nah, keep going.
Yeah, just keep going. Don't even look that way.
Yeah.
So talking about, you know, you this new album is on Prosthetic Records, and that's great that y'all are, you know, on a great label like that. How have you seen that as kind of to where it's benefited the band being now that you're on Prosthetic? Is it now a further reach, do you think, to, you know, globally, more PR? I mean, just getting into crevices and nooks that you weren't able to before?
So one of the first things that was when we went through the negotiations with Prosthetic, and those took about, I don't know, about 4 months. Like I was expecting them to walk away from the table at any point, as we really, you know, went into the contract in a lot of detail. But they clearly wanted to work with us, which was, you know, really reassuring. But one of the things that Steve, I think, said was that they're not going to be able to turn us into Behemoth, or at least not overnight. You know, they like what we do and they want to help us do what we do better. They're not going to promise that, you know, we're suddenly going to become major rock stars and headlining festivals. And it was nice to hear that honesty from them. You know, they didn't try and blow smoke up our ass and say, you're going to be the best thing since sliced bread. It was, we've heard the album, we want to release it through our label, we think it will represent us well, let's find a way to work together for like mutual benefit. And what it's done for us because of that is it just makes us, I think, seem like a more viable prospect. I mean, it shouldn't, you know, in sense, not to, you know, disregard the label. I love being on the label. I can't believe we are on the label. I still feel a little bit imposter syndrome. But I've known so many bands who are fantastic and, you know, 10 times better than signed bands. But the signed bands have that sense that they are a real band compared to an unsigned band. And, you know, it is changing with Bandcamp and all the streaming services. Being able to do a lot more yourself has made people more aware that DIY is just as, if not more serious than, you know, going the label route. But there is still that sense that once you are signed, you are, you know, you're the real deal. And I think it has helped convince some people to check us out who might have thought we're just a local band for local people before now. And I think it does change how people look at us. And it's human psychology, you know. Once people think, oh, actually, these are a viable band, they might be in it for the long term, they're more willing to invest some time into it.
Right.
Not a criticism. That is totally human nature. And that I think is when I would say to anyone who's thinking of signing, you know, one of the benefits of being signed to a label is having that sort of backing of legacy. You are now part of the family, you know, even if it only lasts one album, two albums, whatever. For that period of time, you've got that impetus behind you.
Yeah. Yeah. And as you were telling me this, you know, and what I've heard from other bands, once they do get to, you know, a certain label or, you know, a major label, is you have all that experience that record company has, that knows how to promote, that knows how to get you to different areas, get you onto different types of tours that normally beforehand, you know, the DIY is great and it works for some people, but there's also the benefits of being on a major label. They can give you so much and help you reach out a little bit further.
Yeah, we are still not used to that. I think we still frustrate the label a little bit. But then again, we've only been signed officially for about 6 months, 7, 8, no, 8 months now, something like that. We still frustrate them a little bit because they'll email me and say, "Why didn't you tell us about this?" I was like, because we forgot we're on a label now. We forgot that you could have helped. You know, we're so used to doing everything ourselves and scrabbling and scrounging and you know, looking to, we don't, you know, we're not a sort of band who are very big in the scene. You know, we don't know all the right people, but we know people we trust and people we love, and we you know, reach out to them, sort of thing like that. And you know, the label will say, we could have helped you with this. Like, sorry, I haven't realized yet that, you know, we have this whole new opportunity we can take advantage of. So, you know, we were setting up the logistics for our live show to do the album. It's just going to be it's a tiny show. We've hand invited, I think, 30 people just to have a small audience, because the idea is to focus on the filming. But we wanted an audience there and a way to say thank you. A lot of the people coming are friends and fans and people who've been really supportive locally. And we wanted to stream it as well, because obviously, you know, we don't know what's going to happen with live shows. We are in the process of booking some for sort of late October or November. You know, fingers crossed that'll go. But that's still only around the UK, and you know, we picked up and sold a lot of merch to other countries who we are not going to be able to get to for a while, obviously, with everything.
Yeah.
So we thought it'd be great to, you know, as a little thank you to everyone to live stream the album release, and obviously it will then be able to be watched online. And it was again, it was Chris, our guitarist, who said, "Have you actually asked the label, because they've got their own YouTube channel, they can host it for us?" I said, "Oh yeah, of course they have, and they've got like 90,000 subscribers." Just the things you don't think of because you're not used to having this sort of backing and this sort of help. And they immediately said, "Yeah, of course they did. They're more than happy to host it." Yeah, the benefits are great, and they've not really taken much from us. The only thing Prosthetic asked of us at all when we signed with them was they wanted us to change the album artwork. The album artwork, the original stuff was done by our original artist, Michael Cowell, who has done work for a lot of different bands in the UK and some internationally. And he's got quite a dark and sort of quite abstract gothic style. And Prosthetic basically went, "It's great, but we're not sure how we can sell it. Like, it's not what you expect from them. It's like a profound lore kind of thing, if you know what I mean." I know it's odd to think about it, but you know, different labels do have different styles and different audiences, and I can see what they're getting at. Mike is more than happy. He's just done our new t-shirt design because he's one of our best friends, and so he's still part of the family. And he was like, "Yeah, it's fine. He understands." All they asked from us, all they have literally done is, here's like a couple of artists we worked with and we would recommend, go nuts. They asked nothing else from us apart from, we'd like a bit of a brighter, more in-your-face album cover, but you can still decide what it's going to be and who you work with. You know, here's some money. Yeah, it's been a great relationship so far. We are definitely or possibly one of the least well-known bands they've signed recently, but hopefully we're in it for the long term.
Yeah, well, I hope so. I mean, I was listening to it and I'm enjoying it. You've released, I believe, 3 singles so far. You know, from those, I guess, just to step back a little bit, comparatively, you know, if you were to compare this new album with your previous one, Seekers, what do you think you've done, you know, differently?
It is a lot more organic. Oh, before I go on, I like the fact you spotted there's 3 singles. Most people only spot Hive Mind and Factions because Fearmonger was released like as an announcement,
Yeah, that was.
and it was meant to be part of the album release. It was meant to be 3 singles, then a release, and then all the vinyl got pushed back, and that's been pushed back into next year now. And there was the whole. We delayed releasing the album. We signed to the label. We announced we'd signed to them, and then got even more shit hit the fan. And it was like, oh god, we're gonna have to do it. So you get people are getting 4 singles instead of 3. There's another one coming out in about another week or so. But I'm glad you spotted that. No one else has spotted that there's 3. Everyone else can only see 2. But we learned a lot from the first album. The first album, we we made things difficult for ourselves. We recorded way too many different guitar lines. We went for far too perfect a sound. We were still finding our feet and finding out how to do things. The fact that it sounds as good as it does, the first album, Seekers, is down to the production of James Stevenson, who, in fact, we didn't work with him this time simply because he was busy, and we ended up working with Charles instead. But he is a great producer, and he taught us a lot. But the new one is a lot more organic. It sounds, I think, bigger and thicker. The guitar tones are warmer and more solid, not overly processed. You can hear a lot more of the actual nuances of the playing. The drum sound in particular is so much better. Not that the first one was bad, but we really wanted that sense that the drums were almost in the room with you. You know, the instead of the clicky, overly processed, overly programmed. Basically, we just stuck Ed in a studio for 2 days and just said, just keep doing takes until you get it right. You know, we're not going to be fixing this in post or anything like that. We want the actual sound of all 5 members of the band playing as naturally as possible on the record. As same with the vocals. There is a lot less layering. There's a lot more of me just going for it with a single vocal line, going as hard as I can. I had a lot of fun in the studio, just really just laying into each of the lines. But we also concentrated on dynamic a lot more. You know, I spent so much time on my lyrics. I really want people to actually hear them. So the delivery is, I think, sharper still. I want people to actually hear the rhyme schemes, the little sort of linguistic trickery I've put in there, because, you know, hopefully someone will appreciate it. There's a better use, I think, of quietness and dynamic, and it's in many ways an extension of some of the ideas we had sort of in a primitive fashion on the first album. We don't tend to do verse chorus songs, but we do have lots of hooks and repeated themes. It's just that if we do a verse, the second time we do it slightly differently, and if we do it again the third time, we do it completely differently. So we develop ideas, and on this album we took that to a bigger extreme, and some of the songs are almost linear, like they do recall certain themes and ideas as they go along, but where it starts is not where it finishes a lot of the time, and it's just, it feels more, I'm gonna really sound horrible, but it feels more mature. That's not a good one for the stick on the album. It's mature death metal. Oh yeah, scrap that.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, maybe to where, I guess, you know, just me throwing an idea out there, to where maybe the whole band feels comfortable with what they can do. And like you mentioned, how you're not having to overproduce, you know, work off of click tracks. I mean, and getting it more natural sounding. Is that maybe?
Dead on, yeah. The first one, I think we are slightly slower on the new album, interestingly enough, but I think the writing is more intense, and because there's more shifts in dynamic from slow parts, we've done a lot more in terms of like, oh, where can we drop out a guitar and really, you know, hammer back in and get that sense of, you know, the ebb and flow. It sounds twice as heavy, even though I'd say the first album we had that sort of youthful idea of, let's just play everything as fast as possible. There's definitely a couple of tracks when we look back on it, and we go back in the practice room, you know, after having a break, and we go, right, let's play an old one, and at the end of it you go, why the hell did we write it that fast? That is insane. Once you've got back up, once you got, you know, back into the swing of things, it doesn't seem as fast. But those first couple of times when you've not practiced for a while, you sat there thinking, we were idiots. Why were we writing this fast?
Yeah.
There's definitely still some fast bits on the new album. And weirdly, we're writing the third album now, and Ed, our drummer, has been going, right, more blast beats. Which is fine by me. Love a good blast beat. It's just not what I expected him to hear. But then again, I'll tell you now, when we first set out to write this album, the idea was we wanted to go sort of almost prog death, like, you know, the Faceless had kind of fallen out of the scene for various reasons. We were like, that's kind of a niche we like, you know, we want that sort of, let's have some more proggy parts and put some, you know, clean vocals in, because both Tim and I can sing. And we thought, right, let's go down that path. That's up here. in cerebrally, that's where we want to go. And we didn't do that because everything Tim and kept writing, and everything Chris kept writing, just got heavier and chunkier, and all the proggy parts were more weird and off-putting rather than sort of melodic and user-friendly. The last track is 12 minutes, 12 and a half, 12 minutes-ish. And that was one I had in my head conceptually before it was even written. And I thought this would be, I've always wanted to do a song in movements, that sort of thing. And even then, because I had this idea for the song, what it came out as, when we started putting the meat on the bones, if you know what I mean, is not what we all had in mind in the first place. The album ended up being not what we expected. A kind of a surprise to us writing it. A lot of fun.
Yeah, but I guess that's a good thing. And that's funny that you were talking how the first album, you're like, it's got to be, it was fast. And sometimes I've seen that happen to where, it's your initial album and you want to be able to prove that you got the chops and you musicianship and you can do it. And then and that's funny that you're saying you're thinking back. It's like, what the fuck were we thinking? Why were we playing so fast?
There's definitely, so there's only a couple of parts on this album. There's obviously some voiceovers, which were a big deal, helping to expand the message. There's a bit of piano here and there, and some little bits of atmospheric stuff that we're going to have on backing. But 98% of it, is all stuff we can do live. There's only about 2 or 3 parts, where say there's a third guitar on the record that we couldn't do live unless I pick one up, which I'm considering it. The first one, because it was it was written almost in the studio and not all of it was performed live beforehand. We've actually learned on the second album we got to play more of the songs live before we entered the studio and get a feel for them, because you always get a different feel for them in different environments. There's definitely some bits in the first album looking back at it going, okay, that's 1, 2, 3, that's okay. We're still 4 guitar parts now in this part. That might be a 5th. There's another harmony that comes in a bit and a piano line. We can't play this live. But saying that, I'm always a big fan of when bands find different ways to do stuff live than on record. If you've got those different parts, maybe leave one out and have someone play something different. I always like, if I get a live DVD or a live album or something like that, it's always quite cool, I think, to hear how a band handles some of their songs live. And when they've made clever decisions to go, oh, actually, the live version is subtly different than recorded for various reasons. That's nice. That separates the two quite a bit, rather than just saying, right, let's hire 3 extra guitarists, or let's have all the guitars on the backing track. You start to get very artificial and a bit questionable.
Yeah.
But the new one is a lot more stuff we can really just drop in anywhere, any place, any time, and hit you with.
Awesome. Now, one thing that was kind of interesting, and what I've seen kind of been, unfortunately, a trend is bands waiting to drop an album. And for you're saying it was done since last May. That's a hell of a long time to wait to get an album out.
It's not as long as some I've known. I remember, so quite a few years back, a band from the UK, I'm not going to name who they were. I think they're still going, actually, so which is fine, but I'm still not going to name who they were, because obviously it's not my place to say. But I was somewhat friends with them, and they had to wait just over 2 years after they signed to a record label to release the album. They were essentially different people. They were a different band by the time the album came out. And I kind of laughed and thought, not in a nasty way, that is, an incredulous, wow, that's never going to happen to us. Yeah, exactly. But we've taken advantage. The pandemic did slow everything down. So time kind of became almost meaningless. It doesn't feel like it's been that long, because everything has been so up in the air. And we've taken the time to do all the videos. That really helped. And we've been writing the third album. Well, we've got about 4.5 songs. I wouldn't say finished, but definitely in pretty good proto form now for the next record already. We've worked on a cover track, which we're going to reveal the details of to coincide with the vinyl release, which will probably sometime early next year. Just a little bonus, obviously, because we want people to keep us in mind. We've kept busy, and personally, I still like listening to the album. I'm actually one of the people who is capable of listening to their own stuff. There's still some bits, where you catch yourself going, wish we'd done that slightly differently. But for the most part, I've gone through that phase of can't listen to it, it's too close. Listen to it, pick out all the things I don't like about it, And now I'm just listening to it and just going, wow, I'm really glad we've got here, you know, and we got to this point finally. Yeah, it doesn't seem like that long for us, weirdly. I think just because there have been so many other pressures in life and time has gone so skew-whiff over the last year or so that it almost feels like yesterday when we finished the recording process.
Yeah.
Better or worse.
Oh, the single releases have been spaced out. They're not all bunched up, which happens with, before pandemic, you had an album coming out and then you just spit out singles like here's 1 1 1 1. This one, I guess it's kind of giving you some time, some breathing room to kind of build up the suspense of the album dropping.
Yeah. Being with Prosthetic, obviously that's kind of their time scale. That's kind of what they worked to. They sent us one and said, what do you think about this? Are there any, dates here you guys, wouldn't be able to be available to, promote the record or whatever, or do a single for? Is this enough time? Like I said previously, we were going to do it in, May last year, which I think was going to give us maybe 2 months once we got everything together to actually promote it. So that's maybe a single, maybe two at a push. But like I said, they're quite cramped. If we'd done it ourselves, we would have been. You're completely right. We would have been putting a lot of content into a very small period of time, or not getting much out at all, maybe not getting that much hype. Working Prosthetic's way, yeah, it's been an adjustment. It's we're a DIY small band who've kind of, no one's ever taught us how to do these things. We've learned through trial and error, mostly error, how to do these things. I'll tell you one thing though, it's quite funny. They've tried to do the single releases about 6-7 weeks apart, and you would think that is more than enough time to film a video and do everything like that. But wow, 6 or 7 weeks when you've really got to get all the band together, get an idea. Because the one thing hopefully people will take away from all the videos we've done is they've all got an actual, it's not just us sticking us in a room and trying to look cool. They've been trying to theme them to really have the visuals add to the music as well, rather than just be like a generic band looking tough in a warehouse video. Although to be fair, I do now understand why bands do those videos, because man, time just gets away from you. You've got to get 5 of you with different schedules and different lives together in one room. And our drummer currently lives down in London, so it's drummer lives down in London. Bassist's got 2 kids. We've all got jobs. Chris has just started a new job. Tim's still doing a remote masters. Lots of pressure going on. Then you've got to find a videographer. We've got our guy Eric, who's worked with all our stuff, and he's great at taking my ridiculous ideas and making them real. Got to find a venue. You've got to make sure that you can have the venue, the videographer, and the band all booked at the same time. We've got to have extras. For Hive Mind, we had extras, but we had to be coronavirus compliant. So the whole band was never in the room. If you actually watch that video back, you see it's done in single shots. And at one point, I think there was only ever 3, maybe 4 band members on site at the same time. And then obviously they'd leave during the day when their bits were done. We had to try to schedule them right. You do the morning session, you do the afternoon. We've got 10 extras coming in. We can't have them all on site at the same time. And if they do arrive, we've got to get them to wait outside. I fully have a lot of sympathy now for bands who just go, right, let's just grab a local warehouse and some smoke machines and some lights. Because my stupid ambitious ideas ended up being like, okay, we've got a week to get the video done in now, and we've got to get it filmed, edited, checked, edited again, and submitted within a week. You spend 6 weeks planning it, getting it all sorted, and then it's just a scramble every single time.
Yeah,
but it came out well. It's just the more time you give yourself, the more time you end up wasting, I think.
Yeah. It's sometimes it's good to kind of have that small window where you procrastinate and you're like, okay, shit, we got to get it done this week.
Time just runs away with you. You've got ages, and you're like making all these big epic plans, and it's only in that last week when there we go, we should make some decisions now because we've got very little time left.
Yeah, very cool. So talking about, because you are the lyricist and vocals, did you have in mind, like a general theme for the whole album, or does each song have its own, independent theme?
I think it ended up being more subconscious than anything else. I said I had the title Out Kingdom Undone in mind quite early on, before the album was even written. But that wasn't necessarily going to be the title for this album, because obviously we originally had the idea to be more proggy, tech metal-y, that sort of thing. And it was only, you know, as the song started to take shape, you know, it was like, okay, actually this title fits, and okay, I've got this list of other titles. We do working titles, but a lot of the time I've got, you know, a list of lyrical ideas well in advance, because it works for me to have so little couplets or a chorus or like a verse, you know, or scatter, or just a song title. Sometimes when I'm in the practice room listening to the guys, something will click, and I like a word, a phrase will click with what they're playing, and I'll go, okay, this can be that song. And it just so happened that this one ended up getting political each time, which made Out Kingdom Undone just fit as the overarching one. Interestingly enough, if you look through the different inspirations and themes of all the songs on the album as it is, the title track, which is the long one, actually is a summation of everything that's gone before it. And again, that's not something I think we consciously did. It just complete coincidence, very lucky coincidence, that all these things kind of fell together just naturally through the creative process. So each of the songs has a distinct idea. They're all fueled by a similar sense of frustration and disappointment. It's quite a personal album, I've got to be said. It is political, but I think, you know, the personal is political and all that sort of stuff. But some of the tracks there's one in particular that I think is more about my guilt and issues with not being as good a person as I could be, or like not, you know, you're not standing up, not speaking out when I could have done. I think we all do that, and I think I processed some of my issues with that through this particular song. There's a lot of just my actual anger and rage, and, you know, there's fear in there as well. It is all that. And then the title track just kind of wraps all those up together and gives us like this final thesis on all the stuff you've heard before. And I'd love to take credit that, you know, we did that on purpose, but it just that's just a very lucky coincidence.
Yeah, maybe it was like a collective unconscious to where that was the end goal.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Now, you know, some bands are, you know, vocalists are, when they write, you know, kind of get stuff off their chest. I mean, do you feel like it was also like a healing process once the whole album was done for you?
Yeah, to an extent. The stuff on the next album we've already started writing is still very political. I think there's a lot of stuff still left unresolved. We're hoping, actually, how to put this, because obviously we're a British band. I don't think we necessarily sound traditionally British, whatever that means, if you know what I mean in that sense. You know, although a lot of the lyrics are fueled by specific ideas and experiences we've had in this country, things we've seen, things we've heard in other countries as well, I think the lessons, that's a bit pretentious, the themes of Out Kingdom Undone are quite universal, quite global, really. The next one, I think, is digging even more into the sense of who we are as a nation, as a people, history, the way that shapes the future as well. You know, the classic learn from the mistakes of the past or doomed to repeat them kind of thing. Even down to the fact that, say, we used, so there's four different sort of voice clips on the new album, because I'm a big fan of the band Nordic Giants, who are sort of a proggy post-rock duo who's just a drummer and a keyboard player, and they dress as trolls, like, but in like sort of not in the Mortis sense, in these strange, abstract sort of woodland outfits. They're telling a certain silhouette. They have massive video screens, and all their songs are either instrumental using voice clips and stuff like that to give the message, or they have guest vocalists in. And what I learned from watching them and listening to them was using the voice clips to sort of get the message across. The way they manipulate them and set them to the music really gave them a new context. And so we used one of Obama, because finding someone to talk about trickle-down economics that doesn't sound like the driest thing in the world is very difficult. And if nothing else, the man had a fantastic speaking voice.
Yeah.
There is an ex-member of the Westboro Baptist Church talking about her experiences as part of the church and getting out of it, and the terror that she sees when she sees some of the rhetoric they use and the way they worked infiltrating general public life. There is a quick bit of Winston Churchill, which I thought was fantastic, because obviously Churchill is a very famous, very contentious figure. As a wartime leader, he's very inspirational, very big speaker, but he's very contradictory. He's a wartime leader, but apparently his wartime advice was roundly ignored. Basically, if they'd done what he'd said, we'd have lost. He was also very big on the formation of a united Europe and bringing people together, cutting down borders, and yet also quite virulently racist against certain other types of people. So a figure of contradictions. And I don't think it's a bad thing to have a figure of contradiction there. It's a complex song. I think his little clip there hopefully will make people think about those sort of things. And then the other one is Edward R. Murrow, obviously the famous journalist who fought against McCarthyism and the Red Scare and the witch trials and sort of thing. And 3 of those 4 are American. And we didn't do that. We weren't trying to win over the American audience or pretend to be American. They just happened to be the three that fit.
Yeah.
But for the next one, if and when we use things like that, we're probably going to try and use stuff that is a bit more British, a bit more about things that we've grown up with and things that have had such an even bigger impact on our lives. Whether it's from politics or even from pop culture, I think that we're already looking forwards and what can we learn from this album and take to the next one.
Yeah.
Sorry,
well,
I've got the original question was there. I went on a rant there. I have no idea.
That's all right. We just roll with it. But I guess I see what you're saying, to where it's not necessarily you were aiming to try to get American audience or a specific or the UK, because regardless of where you're from, injustice is still injustice. Yeah. So it fits everywhere in every context.
Yeah, I mean I've got friends in India who obviously keep me appraised of the situation there. I've got I write for No Clean Singing, have done for a solid decade now. So some of my best friends in the world are in America. So obviously I get the updates on their political situation from the ground level. We're friends with bands from all around the world. Monolith Escort in the Netherlands, for all their purposefully hammy nature at times, they're a very politically astute band. A lot of their songs are about bits of history that are quite contentious or quite unknown and have caused some controversy, but they haven't shied away from that. And from conversations with them, I get the insight into the European situation. You're right, the specifics might be very personal, but the general sense of what's going on is the political situation is quite universal.
Yeah, and it's scary to think that this is something that's gone on forever. We would like to think that we're better, but I mean it's been like this forever, and it's when the very few control everything, it's hard to push them off the top.
Yeah, that's totally the underlying drive of the album, is this frustration that we are capable of better. Look how far we've come, and yet while doing that, we've allowed certain injustices and things to be embedded in the fabric of our daily lives, to the extent where we don't see them, we don't think about them until someone grabs them and drags them into light and says, "This is wrong." Right. And a lot of the record is about this idea that we all let ourselves be blinded. And I'm it's not a polemic. I'm not saying I'm any better than anyone at all. I hope no one comes away from it with the feel that they've been talked down to. If anything, I hope people realize what I'm talking about is I am this person who has turned a blind eye, this person who has accepted things the way they are, this person who has not been a great person all the time. I've done bad things in my life. We all have. I'm not trying to say I'm better than anyone. I'm just trying to use this as a moment of calm and saying, look at what we're capable of, both the good things and the bad things, and why do we keep doing this? Why do I keep doing this? Why do you keep doing this? Why do we all keep repeating these same patterns?
Yeah, it's because we're selfish.
Pretty much. I mean, the whole the other thing I hate, and society is not in any way perfect. Society is an ongoing experiment where you need to keep changing the parameters to make things better. Saying that your society, your democracy, your capitalism, whatever your preferred modus operandi is perfect, perfection is stagnation. As soon as you believe you're perfect, you start to wither, basically, because you're not pushing forwards. But the idea that, like, the best example is when people say taxation is theft. No, it's not. Taxation is part of the social contract. The use of taxes and the way they're applied by the people above us, that is something we can definitely talk about. You know,
Right.
how are they being used? How are they being misused and abused? And how are they not being applied fairly? But the idea of the social contract, and I think it's not something metal people like to talk about, because metal is inherently rebellious, even though it's usually rebellion without a cause. You know,
Yeah.
every band under the sun seems to write a song about revolution. What do you mean? It's just a buzzword. You know, it's just something to make you feel slightly better. It's self-help empowerment music with no actual meaning. But the social contract says, all right, we live in a society together, we work collectively, and we do better collectively. Look at history. You know, we're doing better the more we work together. I know it's a weird thing for a metal band to say, because you're meant to be really strongly individualistic and stuff like that. But I believe that humanity as a whole has so much potential. Even if, you know, just to move in politics, art is amazing, but art isn't just a single artist. Art is movements that inspire each other, and you know, art in itself is the collective unconscious, like you said before, the collective soul of humanity. You know, whether it's death metal or abstract imagery or sculpture or dance, you know, we can create so many great things. Why the hell are we spending all our time creating so many terrible things as well?
Right. Right. Well, we can only, hopefully do our part and try to be better to where, if even if it's just that little part of us being a little bit better, maybe it'll influence somebody else to be a little bit better.
Yeah, totally. I said I can't count myself as an activist. I'm not that good a person. You know, I've been on the occasional march and things like that, but it doesn't. It's hard to get into. I'm not that good. But if it inspires other people to be better than me, which would be great, yeah, it's achieved something.
Yeah. Well, I think music has done that throughout the decades, forever. I mean, music has inspired, numerous peoples to where, yeah, sure, not everybody will take that step to do something, but there are going to be some people to where they may listen to a part of your lyrics and think and go a little bit further and research that a little bit more, and maybe make the change, whether with them themselves or in the group or collectively as a society. You never know. It just takes a few people to get together to make a big impact.
Yeah, yeah. It's the pebble that starts an avalanche, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So getting back, just to mention, you
Back on
are gonna
track here.
yeah, you are gonna have that live stream once the record drops, and you did mention it's only limited to 30 people, correct?
Yep. We just
Yeah.
30 people, friends and family and so that. It's just a very small local venue in Nottingham. We're actually playing Nottingham again a little over a week later as a support for another show that's not been announced yet, which is going to be a great way for people who obviously can't make it to the live stream, because we're keeping that small, to come see us. And we're very pleased to have been asked to play that show. It's a couple of our favorite bands. But the live stream itself, you know, as far as I'm aware, it's going out about half 9 hour time, which we'll put up, you know, different times around the world, people watch it. But I think Prosthetics will be holding the recording of it online for a certain amount of time anyway. So you don't have to, you don't have to tune in live. It'd be great if you did, but you
Right.
can watch it at your leisure after that. And the idea is, hopefully some people who we won't get to play for maybe ever, sadly, will at least be able to, get an appreciation of what we can do live.
Yeah, very cool. Now, when was the last time that y'all played live together?
That was the 13th of December 2019. I think that was the
Wow.
exact date. Last day of a tour with Hour of Penance and Damn Him and Cryptic Shift, which we got added to at the last minute by a fantastic promoter who's become a really good friend of ours, really good guy. We were meant to be on one date of it, and the promoter from the local date said, "Oh, I didn't realize you're looking for more. You just want to jump on the entire tour? Like, I can't offer you any money for it, because it's kind of last minute. But we can add a band. Do you want to do it? But do we want to do 4 dates of Hour of Penance? Yeah, of course we do.
Yeah.
And series of great shows, all of them. And then we've not played it live since. And no one expected that. We had big ideas for things we were going to do, and it just
Yeah.
But we're not alone, you know. We're not the only band in that boat. Every band in the world has been dealing with this.
Right. Has it started to open up a little bit over there in the UK or not yet?
Yeah, yeah. The problem in the UK has been the messaging has been pretty poor, and there's been very little consistency in what can and cannot open, and when and where you can go, masked, not masked, vaccinated, not vaccinated. I honestly think a lot of the issues people have with all, you know, people getting turned on conspiracy theories like that would have been solved if the government had just been a bit more transparent and honest. But then again, who expects a government to be transparent and honest these days?
Right.
But Tim and I are off to Bloodstock this weekend. It's actually started. The festival has already started, but he and I, because we helped out with a certain website and podcast, they put us on their guest list. So we're going on Sunday. So I get to see Judas Priest for the first time, who I've never managed to see. I've been, you know, live this long and still never seen Judas Priest live. So that's just one reason to go. I've got tickets booked for Bosk and June. And June are easily one of my favorite bands and one of the best bands in the UK at the minute. That's in a couple of months. I was going to give you a month there, but I realized I can't remember when it is. I've got tickets for Cult of Luna next year on their Beyond the Redshift Festival, and I'm probably going to get a Gojira ticket because Employed to Serve are supporting, and I've become friendly with some of those guys who are, you know, great band. They're doing so well for themselves.
Yeah, they are.
So pleased and proud of them. That sounds funny. I don't know them that well, but like from the conversation I've had, you know, they're good people, genuine people who just worked really hard.
Yeah.
I've been hitting the cinema. I live near a local cinema. It's actually the one where we shot our filmmonger video.
Oh, okay. Cool.
We shot that. That video was meant to be shot somewhere else originally, and the original plan would not have turned out even 1/10 as good as what we actually got in the end. I love that video, but that cinema had to shut, obviously because of COVID. Even though there was a single traceable connection between a transmission in a cinema in the entire country, they just went carte blanche. They shut all of them. Right. Obviously, a lot of places went under. And so one thing we thought was, there's only 5 of us plus the videographer. It's a full auditorium. We can stay pretty spaced out. We can all do tests and stuff like that, and sort of isolate for the week running up to it. Why not book it, see if they're doing like the letters in to do a private performance essentially, and we can give a local business we all love some money to help keep them afloat. So that worked out. But no, I've been going back to them just to see a couple of things. You know, it is all about, you know, I've been to a couple of cafes in the local community, places like that, you know, just showing a little bit of support after all this time. I mean, a lot of places adapted quite well, doing takeout, doing rental and all that sort of stuff, but it's nice to see things opening up again. I've even been for a couple of drinks. I went out drinking on Monday night with Chris, our guitarist. We went to see the venue for the live show, did some measurements, you know, we're getting some banners made up for it and things like that, you know, really want to make it a special occasion. And then we ended up drinking for like 4 hours afterwards because, you know, it's been a long time since we've been out socializing. We might as well tie a few on.
That's right. Yeah,
it's getting better.
It's weird. I understand what you're saying, to where, you know, shows are opening up here. I'm actually going to go see Goat Whore tonight, and it's weird. You're there, and you're like, it's still that awkward feeling, you know, being around so many people, but you still want to be there.
I've noticed. So as a band, we're quite physically affectionate. Like, you know, you see the guys. If you haven't seen, Tim lives 20 minutes that way. Andrew lives 25-30 minutes that way. Chris lives 50 minutes over there. Ed lives down in London. But, you know, everyone's got different lives, and you don't always get to see each other that often. So when we see each other, we do hug and we hang out, and it's like, well, the pandemic, you can't do that. And is that still that, even with your close friends, that sense of, can we hug? Can we shake hands? What's the etiquette now? How are you feeling? Because, you know, let's be honest, some people are still a bit anxious about this, which is totally understandable. I said, Andrew's got 2 kids. Got to look after your kids, and that's fine with that, you know. I know people who are immunocompromised, who can't take the risks. Perfectly healthy. I've not been that much inconvenienced by the pandemic, really. You know, my work transferred me to work from home the day before the announcement happened in this country. We got home on the Monday to an email saying, look, for safety's sake, everyone just work from home from now on. We'll sort out like getting laptops or whatever out if people need equipment. but we can't, have people get in the trains or the buses and that with this thing spreading so quickly. And then the next day it was made official. But some people are still dealing with the whole thing about opening back up again. I mean, I'm not going to pretend to be a political scientist. I don't understand all the different calculations that have gone into it. But you've got to remember that opening up for everyone doesn't open up for everyone, because there are some people who are still going to be confined to their homes or confined to very small areas or small communities because they can't risk getting ill. They're going to be immunocompromised or caring for someone who's immunocompromised. So I think, a little bit of sympathy and compassion, a bit of understanding that not everyone is still, people aren't still in the same boat. There are still several very different boats involved in this.
Yeah. But at least, I guess, we're moving in the right direction slowly.
Yeah. And I think, like you said earlier, we got to learn to adapt, and we will. I'm not in the sense of like acceptable losses. I don't like that idea that the people saying, we've got to learn to live with it, like we do the flu and this many deaths. Like, yeah, but they still work on improving the flu vaccine every year to reduce the number of deaths. You seem to miss that part out. We don't just accept that the number of deaths can happen. We do our best to minimize those deaths. But there are, it's not black and white carte blanche. We either accept it or not. There's levels and layers of acceptance. I think it's going to take a lot more. I'm seeing a lot more collective action in the community and that sort of thing like that. A lot more people coming together because they can't necessarily rely on the government, particularly in this country. Although very lucky to live in a quite wealthy Western country. They've undercut the NHS and they've cut down on local services quite a lot, because the government is trying to fund different things.
Right.
At some point, I think that's going to have to suffer a major reversal. It's going to have to start reinvesting in people in the community rather than businesses and this nebulous thing called the economy, whatever that is.
Yeah, for sure. Well, with time, we can only hope they'll smarten up.
Yeah, I still have hope. It's very easy to be nihilistic, to be cynical. I think you can still have hope, and there are still ways to make things better. We're not doomed yet.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and plus we still got September 3rd to where your release is coming out, so
that will fix everything.
That's right. So speaking of our Kingdom Undone, so of course I always like to tell fans, people, if you're gonna buy something, buy it directly from the band. That way they get the money. Besides picking up that pre-order from your website, what else can kind of fans do to support the band?
Merch is always good. Brexit has caused some real issues with the shipping abroad in particular, but we're working our way around that. We're trying to keep shipping costs as low as possible because we're not in this to make lots of money. Anything we do make, any minimal profit goes back into the band to fund next recording. Just spread the word, really. Share the videos around, tell other people about us, even if you don't like us yourself. Maybe you've got some friends who do, and that's fine. I'm not going to pretend we're for everyone. We haven't tried to be. We've not tried to please everyone with this album. We've tried to please ourselves. And if some people like it, we're going to be very lucky. We're going to be really appreciative if people actually like and appreciate what we do.
Yeah, and I think that's the my humble opinion. And for I've talked to numerous different types of bands and band members. It's always been to where once you write the album that you want to write for yourself, then the fans will follow.
Yeah, I hope so. I think you can tell when someone is. I don't want to pretend to know everyone's intentions, but you can tell when a band's being really honest and when a band is trying to tick certain boxes.
Right.
I said I've written for No King Singing for 10 years now. I wrote for Terrorizer for several years. I have no one is an expert. It's all pretty subjective in the end, but I try and be somewhat objective, and I have a reasonable sixth sense for when I feel like a band is trying to achieve a certain level of success, or when a band is trying to actually say something meaningful.
Yeah.
And you can do both. I am in no way against accessible albums. Every year, No King Singing, I usually ruin our metal cred by putting something really poppy and accessible in my favorite list. I mean, Lantlos, the new Lantlos album from this year, if you haven't heard it, is brilliant, and it's uplifting, but also melancholy, and it is just incredibly listenable. It's like Alcest meets Foo Fighters. It's that level.
Oh, really?
This could be a massive hit given the right marketing, but it comes from such a slightly obscure angle that it's not going to be that poppy hit. It's still very real, and I every year You know, I don't mind going for something. Astronoid's first album, Air, I still listen to now, and it's all clean singing, happy and upbeat, but again, slightly melancholy and that sort of thing. I think you can be accessible and honest, and I think you can be inaccessible and dishonest. You know, I've seen bands try and be the most extreme thing ever just because that's what they feel like other people expect them to do.
Right.
It's not, again, it's not black and white like that. Hopefully, people will understand that this album is very honest. Like I said, we tried not to be very calculated. It really was all stuff in the practice rooms or like in ones or twos, bouncing riffs off each other. And that moment when someone head snaps up and goes, play that again. That's when you know you're on something. You're not thinking, where's the mosh part going to be live, or are they going to sing along to this chorus? It's the five of us in a room, and you suddenly see everyone's eyes light up and go, okay, let's follow that thread. Like what we've just done there, let's go with that, because clearly everyone's into it. And you know, hopefully other people will have that same connection. Can't guarantee it, but you know, hopefully.
Yeah, for sure. So before we finish up, Andy, is there anything else that you would like to promote? Again, I want to thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. Anything else? Of course, you got the album coming out on September 3rd, and making sure that people buy merch. You have that live stream coming out that it's for free, so there's no reason not to tune in. Anything else that we haven't covered that you'd like to get out there?
Oh, no, I just give opportunity. Can I shout out a couple of other British bands of our friends of ours who you might want to check out? Luna's Call, who are supporting us on the live stream show, and hopefully we'll be part of the live stream as well. Amazing band. Rannoch, another one. Both of them released probably their best albums ever last year. Allfather and Terraglyph are two bands we absolutely love and have toured with. Cryptic Shift and Damn Him. I'm gonna get killed by so many bands I've not mentioned here. Ageless Oblivion, obviously their guitarist is in Deploy to Serve, who are again another great band. But Ageless Oblivion are one of my favorite bands of all time. They've got a new album out this year that's fantastic. You know, there's a lot of great bands in the British scene now. Hopefully, one day we'll be considered one of them.
Yeah, well, I mean, time will tell. And like I said, I've been enjoying the album. It's, and you're right, it's not as technical as the first one, but it doesn't have to be technical. It's heaviness has all different peaks and valleys.
I think we always want it to go subtle tech with this one. There's a lot more going on under the surface. The first one I think was a bit more in your face with, you know, the technicality. I think you're right there. There's a lot of sort of chord shifts and timing stuff that you don't notice because we tried to make them really natural. It's only when you kind of step back or someone points them out, you go, oh, that's odd. The stuff I still catch in it that I didn't realize the band had done. You know, I do have a hand in the writing, but mostly it's done by instrumentalists. So when they give me something and I find my way into it and get into a groove with it, I only notice it's in a weird time signature when they point it out to me later on. So yeah, hopefully, I think more people will find that. I think it gets better the longer you spend with it, rather than just being a one and done. Have you got a favorite track? I'll ask you a question.
Not yet, man. I'm still mulling it over. I do like, you know, the first single that came out. Also the last single, I like that one too, because it's a little bit slower and it's not, you know, I love technical death metal too, but sometimes you just want to slow it down a little bit.
Yeah, I'm glad we went with that as a single. But I was surprised when we wrote it because, you know, like it's a slow, it's a stomper. It's not like a speedy one. But you know, that's cool. I like slow it down a bit.
It shows that you have a variety that's going to be coming out on the album, and it's just not like all pummeling in your face the whole nonstop.
Yeah, I really hope people appreciate like the track flow as well. If the track list doesn't flow properly, that's my fault, because I said right, I want them to be in this order and I want them to flow like this way. So if everyone hates it, that's entirely my fault, and I will put my hand up.
So we know who to blame then.
You do know who to blame. It's all my fault.
Okay, well, Andy, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. I wish you the best on release date. I'll try to promote those singles that you have already, and you're gonna have single number 4 coming out before the album drops too.
Yes, possibly next week. I think I just need to check some emails and stuff like that. But yeah, thank you for having me and for giving us this opportunity. It's really, really appreciated. I've had a lot of fun as well. It's been a fun conversation.
Yeah, me too. I like just chit chatting.
Yeah. And enjoy Goat Whore tonight. I haven't seen Goat Whore in ages, and I think the rest of the bill's really good as well.
Yeah, Necrofire, which they're somewhat new. They're from Texas. Another band that calls they just changed their name. All Life Dies. They used to be called Fall, but now they changed their name. And Necrofire and All Life Dies has members from Oceans of Slumber, if you know who they are.
Yeah, I'm friends with drummer from Oceans Slumber on
Okay.
Facebook. Facebook friends, you know, we still chat every now and then, but you know, I'm not going to pretend to be his close friend. But yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, enjoy that. That sounds like a fucking good show.
Yeah, at least to see Goat. I mean, they're all going to be good, but you know, go see Goat.
Always worth it.
Yeah. All right, Andy. Thank you again. Appreciate your time. You take care. Okay.
Take care, man.
Bye.